Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the 2021 Toyota RAV4 Adventure trim. So this is not your normal XLE that you normally rent, but this is the Adventure trim, the off-roading trim for the RAV4. So what's really exciting about this car is that it is the best-selling non-truck in America, which is kind of crazy to believe, but as you can imagine, Toyota moves a lot of units of this every single year, and therefore it's a really important car in the industry. So I'm really excited to have the chance here to review it for you guys. So I'll go over the simple format here, give a quick overview of the car, how it fits into Toyota's lineup, some of the main competitors, things like that. Then I'll go over the exterior, the interior, some tech features, and then I'll finally close off with some driving impressions. Alright, so a quick overview of this car. Like I mentioned in the intro, this is the best-selling non-truck in America, and obviously therefore Toyota's best-selling vehicle, and it means a lot to Toyota, right? The compact SUV market is super hot right now, and you have strong competitors like the Mazda CX-5, Honda CR-V, and the other Asian competitors like Kia and Hyundai. The Hyundai Tucson 2022 redesign was fantastic, and you've got really strong competition. So the one I have here is the Adventure trim, and it's meant to be the off-roading one. You can see some interesting styling elements here that kind of indicate that off-roadiness, right? And this is meant to compete with things like the Subaru Forester, which traditionally has had a really good niche in the compact SUV market because it is the only truly outdoorsy SUV, but now that's not the case. So you've also got the RAV4 Adventure, and I think that's what makes this car do so well is its versatility. You have something that is comfortable, looks pretty good now in my opinion, and also affordable, and now off-roady, which is kind of crazy to think about, right? The base RAV4 starts at just $26,250, and that is going to be for the LE trim. You've got the XLE above that and the XLE Premium, and then you have the Adventure trim, which actually MSRP is for $33,355. That's not cheap money, right? That's the point where you can start to almost get into some of the luxury rivals, but you do have a lot of utility in this vehicle. First of all, this is larger than the previous generation. So Toyota redesigned the RAV4 for the 5th generation back in 2019, and they introduced the Adventure trim back in 2018. And since then, it's been doing pretty well. I feel like you see more of these on the road than almost any other vehicle. For the 2021 model year, pretty much the only major change we saw was the addition of the RAV4 Prime, which has been a really big hit so far. Otherwise, no major changes to this actual vehicle. If you guys are wondering what the Adventure trim actually means, aside from some of the unique styling elements on the outside and the inside, which I'll show you in a moment, you have got the torque vectoring all-wheel drive dynamic system. So this is something that Toyota introduced back in 2013, and it's actually really interesting. What happens is it's a system that allows the RAV4 to split its power between both the front wheels and the back wheels dynamically. So normally on normal roads, for efficiency's sake, you only use the front wheels. But then when something starts to slip or you need some more traction, they can kick power to the actual rear axle and split it even between the rear wheels, which is really, really interesting. And I think one of the biggest things that you'll notice about the Adventure trim here from just looking at this angle is how large those wheel wells are, right? And you've also got that plastic fender flare, essentially, that kind of shows that this is meant for off-road tough styling. So underneath the hood of this 2021 Toyota RAV4 Adventure trim, you've got the same engine that you find in all the other trims. This is the very, very popular and reliable 2.5 liter 4-cylinder from Toyota. Makes 201 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque. Not impressive numbers by any means, but it does give you really, really great mileage. You get 25 in this city and 33 freeway miles per gallon, which is class leading in this segment. The Adventure trim actually has slightly lower EPA ratings than the other trims, but you kind of make up for it with the torque vectoring all-wheel drive system. And this is all mated to an 8-speed automatic, very, very robust engines that Toyota has been using forever and has definitely proven its reliability as time goes on. Definitely a huge reason people opt for the Toyotas and the Hondas of the world. All right, let's take a look at the exterior of this car. So the Adventure trim gives this some unique styling elements, like I mentioned before, like this front fascia. You've got some mean blacked out plastic here. It looks interesting. I don't know if I love it, but it does look unique and does give this a kind of rugged look. You've also got this big lip at the bottom, which is meant to kind of soak up any sort of mud or any sort of other things that you might encounter while you're off-roading in your RAV4 Adventure. Otherwise, you've got a pretty standard front fascia here. Toyota has really adopted this boxy look, and I like it a lot. I think overall it's an improvement over the last generation, which looked very, very lame, honestly. and I really like what Toyota did. I do like the side profile. This is really where you can see, like I said before, how off-roady this is. Look how large those wheel wells are. I believe this is lifted quite a few inches off the ground more than the normal trims, and it gives it a bit of a firmer ride, but overall it's still very, very handsome looking car. You've got 19-inch alloy wheels, and these are finished with matte black accents. It's very interesting looking design, and you know, overall I like it. I don't think it's my favorite design, but still looks good, and it does add to the off-roady appearance of this car. The body lines are pretty standard. You've got roof racks on the top, and those are plastic and finished in black. And going into the back, this is pretty standard as well, but I do like the boxy look again. You've actually got the RAV4 badge here blacked out. And then the Adventure trim, you have some interesting font here, which I kind of like. Looks unique. All right, so let's open the tailgate and see what's in the trunk here. So unfortunately, no power liftgate is standard on the Adventure trim. A little ridiculous for a $33,000 car, but you do have a decent amount of cargo space. There is over 37 cubic feet of cargo space with the second row seats up. So kind of some water bottles for size there. But otherwise, this is a pretty impressive cargo space. And I think, and the second row seats are actually quite comfortable and have a lot of space as well. So this is a really impressive interior. So the part that is unique of the Adventure trim here is this 120 volt outlet. So this is really cool here. You can actually charge a lot of really cool things here and kind of use this as a generator. And overall, this makes this car a lot more friendly for camping or whatever other outdoorsy activities you'd like to do in your RAV4. And now moving back to the front, look at these headlights. I really like the design of these. I wouldn't say they stand out that much in this class, but you know, in general, cars just have great options now with LED headlights, and you've got some lower fog lights as well. Both of these look pretty nice and give this car kind of a rugged appearance, but also a luxurious appearance. And I think overall, Toyota did a good job on the styling here. I am looking forward to some more refreshes in the near future though, since this design is getting a little old at this point. When I think of the interior of the Toyota RAV4, I definitely don't think the word luxurious comes to mind. But I will say that I've been really impressed with the Adventure trim's interior. So I did drive a base RAV4 a few years ago, and I really wasn't impressed with it, but look at these leather seats. I really like them, and they were really comfortable on a multi-hour road trip. I was really impressed with you know, how supportive they were, especially because this is, you know, really meant to be an off-roading vehicle, right? So it's not supposed to be something that's super supportive, just rugged. And I love the orange contrast stitching. That's something you'll see throughout the entire cabin here. You know, once we peek around a little bit, you can see the orange contrast stitching is pretty much everywhere. And I just love I feel like Toyota did a really good job at putting them in all of the high visibility areas. And they are really practical, right? The storage there is really, really nice. The storage here is perfect. Would have been nice to have a wireless charging pad there, but you know, you've got some extra storage there for any sort of things that, you know, might slip. And you've got the orange accents around the cup holders, and again, some more storage right here on the left. So overall, I think Toyota did a really good job with the interior. It's both comfortable and practical, and I think that is what you need for a car like the RAV4 Adventure. Going to the doors, I really like the orange contrast stitching here, right? If you're a fan of Halloween, this is going to be a really good car for you. The actual door panels themselves are also very impressive. You have a decent amount of chrome, and I really like that. It adds to the luxurious look, and I actually really, I don't know, this is something I was telling my friends, I love the feel, the rubber feel of these little pads. They feel really grippy, and I really, really like that. All of the buttons here are very easy to use, very practical and laid out. You have one touch for putting the windows down and up for all 4 windows. And you have this nice leather upholstery. You have some plastic and some hard plastic down here, of course, as you would expect. But otherwise, in general, most of it is very, very practical and rugged, and I can definitely see this car being used in an off-roading manner. Moving over here, you've got some more chrome all throughout the cabin, and I think it looks impressive, right? Like, I don't know, I was really blown away by the interior. I think that's the first thing that caught my eye when I first got into this vehicle, is just how impressive the interior was for something that I consider an economy car. And this isn't even that high of a trim. The sticker price is pretty high, but it's not something that I would expect to be, like the high-end limited trim or anything like that. Immediately you can see the 7-inch digital gauge cluster right here looks impressive, and so does the 8-inch touchscreen right here. I'll go into those a bit more detail in the tech portion of the review, but they do add to the luxurious feel of this cabin. The steering wheel is leather wrapped. Not the most supportive thing, it doesn't feel that great, and I feel like this is probably one of the most economical looking parts of the vehicle, right? It has all the functions, but definitely doesn't scream luxury or anything like that. And then otherwise, the center of the cabin is very straightforward to use. Everything looks very standard, and you have really easy hard buttons for everything, which a lot of people will really enjoy. In terms of practicality, you do have a decent amount of storage. So like I said, right here, you've got some nice rubber storage right here. You've also got one USB port right there, as well as a outlet. And then moving down, you've also got 2 cup holders, and notice this triangle repetitive styling throughout the entire cabin. It's on the speaker covers, it's on the seats. Toyota does a really good job with kind of keeping the consistency throughout the cabin, and I really like it. It looks really good. And the center armrest, it's actually pretty deep. There's a decent amount of storage space in here. You've got 2 more USB outlets here. We can immediately see that the orange contrast stitching continues throughout the rear seats as well. And you've also still got this cool triangle pattern. I love it. It looks really rugged. They do the same thing for the speaker caps in the back seats as well. So it's a really comfortable place to be. They're still really nice leather seats, and you can see this is with the front seat completely moved as far back as possible. I've still got a decent amount of space here. My knees almost reach it, but in general, I feel very comfortable. You've still got the nice rubber grip right here for when you want to get out of the car. And the rear seats are very nicely appointed. It almost feels like a luxury car. You've got some more USB outlets here, which is really impressive. That's, I think, almost 5 in total in the entire vehicle. And as usual, the last thing I wanted to cover before moving on to the tech is the key fob. So the key fob looks pretty standard, but I think the really cool part about it is that it actually says RAV4. I really like key fobs that indicate what vehicle you're driving, right? A lot of key fobs these days don't show the actual model of the car, just the make, and you wouldn't know the difference between having a RAV4 or a Camry, but here you can show off that you have a RAV4. Otherwise, very standard key fob, nothing else special about this. So kicking us off with tech, you've got the 7-inch digital gauge cluster that you can pretty clearly see right here. It's pretty impressive, actually. I really like the way that those red circles kind of outline the rest of those gauge clusters, the analog gauge clusters. And you can actually change the drive modes using these handy buttons in the middle. And if you click Sport, it changes it to this more aggressive red. Look, there's more red outlines. It's so sporty. And then you've got Normal, you've got Eco, which is this cool green, like runway type of thing. You've got Snow, which adds a little bit of a snowy feel. And then you've also got Mud and Sand, which makes it orange and turns off traction control and a lot of other things. And then you've got Rock, which apparently is bluish purple, kind of a gray. It looks really purple in this video, but it's definitely more gray purple in real life. But yeah, so a lot of different drive modes, which is definitely something that's impressive for a vehicle, right? And I think that is the huge part of the Adventure trim, is that you have many, many drive modes for any sort of situation you find yourself in. Otherwise, I have to say the tech in this car is not a standout. I wouldn't say it's a bad part of the car either, though. This car does come standard with adaptive cruise control. If you watch my other reviews consistently, I get so upset with the amount of luxury cars that don't have this standard, or even on higher trims, cough Range Rover. It's ridiculous to not have such a cool feature like this, right? So this RAV4 comes the base trim RAV4, the LE, comes standard with adaptive cruise control. It's really nice too. You've got lane trace assist, and you can set the follow distance, and it's very easy to use. I have used this a ton in New York traffic over the last few days, and it works almost flawlessly. I wouldn't say it's as good as Tesla Autopilot, but it's pretty much the same thing. You pretty much just set it and forget it. The lane trace assist works very, very well, and it's very impressive. Otherwise, in this screen, it's relatively configurable. You can display some other things and go through some settings, but otherwise it's not going to be the most unique thing. Generally, I think most people will be keeping it on audio, but I do think it does a good job of showing, you know, your digital speed, as well as the temperature, your odometer, your current gear, and all of your adaptive cruise control things. I will say that some of my gripes are with a lot of the missing standard features. Of course, like every car, this car also has some flaws. So no heated steering wheel or heated seats for a $33,000 car is a little ridiculous, especially when you want to be an off-roady vehicle. I feel like you need heated and ventilated seats. That's a very, very important part of, you know, being able to take this car out camping and stuff like that. I also will say, on a slightly separate note, that these speakers are pretty subpar. They're still not bad. I mean, the crazy thing is all speaker systems these days are just quite impressive in new cars, but you know, they're definitely not high end. They sound very hollow, and I think it's due to the lack of just not having many speakers in this car. And for me personally, the biggest issue with this car is, look, no sunroof or moonroof at all. They actually take it away from you when you step up from the XLE to this trim, but you can get this with a pano sunroof. You just have to pay extra, which is kind of weird. I don't really understand. But otherwise, those are the main flaws that I can think of. This car does come with blind spot monitors and also rear cross traffic alert, although I believe that is also part of a package. But otherwise, the last thing I really wanted to discuss with you guys is this touchscreen. So, you know, first thing, is it responsive? You have all these buttons on the side that help you navigate, and they are very helpful. On the touchscreen, like you can see here, not the fastest thing. If you've used like a Lexus or anything like that, like it's fairly similar. You know, it's not the fastest, but it's not terrible. My real issue with this is an 8-inch touchscreen, which is pretty good, right, for an economy car here. But, you know, like you have all these buttons on the side, and this screen is a lot larger, right? You can make this easily a 10-inch display if you kind of just shrunk this around, I think. I'm hoping Toyota will go for that in the future, because I really do like this display. It's very sturdy, it feels really good, and I like the dials here, right? They're easy to use, they feel really good. And I think Toyota did a really good job here with usability and practicality, but I just hope that they can make it a little bigger in the future, because when you do engage in Apple CarPlay, like I will show right here, it just doesn't feel large enough. You know, the screen real estate, it's so interesting, right? Because 8 inches should be enough to show everything, but I feel like for Apple CarPlay, when you want to see the map, you want to see your directions at the same time, you want to see the music, it just gets a little cluttered. So I've discussed a few of the issues I have with this vehicle, but I will say one of the surprising things that I really liked in the tech part is the impressive rear view camera. Not the quality, as you can tell, the quality is not the greatest thing here, it's the wide angle. That's something you don't see too often, and it works really well here, especially also with rear cross traffic alert showing you the direction in which a car is coming behind you. So it's actually, it works really, really well, and even though the quality isn't that great, you can see you know, exactly where cars are in your blind spots. You can also choose to just show the normal view if you would like, instead of the wide angle. And of course, you've also got the ability to show your line projections for how you're going to turn out of a spot. So, driving the 2021 RAV4 Adventure trim. I want to start with the positives here, and the first thing that I really noticed was how fuel efficient this car is. It's very impressive. I think just driving all of those other cars that definitely are not fuel efficient, this has been quite wondrous, honestly. I mean, I am maybe at like, 3/8 of a tank right now, and I've driven over like 200 miles on this car, and I don't know, it's impressive for a car to have such good mileage, especially because I've been in pretty much stop and go traffic all the time here on Long Island. But yeah, so that's the biggest thing, is that this car is very practical. It's good for people who don't want to spend a lot of money on gas, especially because you don't have to get premium or anything like that. The other thing I noticed that I kind of enjoyed was that the ride quality is pretty good. It's actually on par, I feel, with some of the more luxurious competitors out there now, and I think that's just kind of the fact that the RAV4 has been around for a while now, and Toyota's really refined the chassis and everything like that, and the ride quality is surprisingly pleasant. So a few negatives though. The cabin noise is definitely not not a good thing in this car. That's one of the first things I noticed right when I started driving, and the first time I got on a freeway. It's pretty loud. It's definitely not going to be something as quiet as a Lexus or the Range Rover I drove earlier, right? So I think that's one of the things that people will notice very quickly of this car and not like. But otherwise, there are a lot of positives too, and I think that there will be people who still can get past those negatives and still really enjoy this car. All right, let's floor it a little bit here. You guys can hear how the engine works. That's so funny. I'm going 40 miles per hour. So acceleration is obviously not a strong point. I think this goes 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds, right? The 2.5 liter 4-cylinder just, it has enough power for what most people in RAV4s will be doing. And honestly, it's more torquey than you'd expect. But the thing is, like, you get going pretty fast, and then before you know it, you're just like, oh, I'm still at like 40 miles per hour and I can't go up. So it is a little different from some of the other cars you would see in this segment, especially if you want to go for the sportier ones like the Mazda CX-5, right? The shifts are smooth. I mean, obviously it's a very nice engine, very reliable, right? It's going to last you forever. The car is going to last you forever. And that's a huge reason why people are going to pick this car over something that's more fun like a CX-5, or maybe even something that's more practical like the larger CR-Vs. Ultimately, the RAV4 just has such a positive brand identity, being part of Toyota, and that really makes it a very popular car. And although it's not a bad car, I will say the tech in this car has impressed me. I mean, the 8-inch screen in the middle could be bigger, but it's very nice compared to some of the competitors. The 7-inch digital gauge display, I really like that. It looks fantastic, and I think Toyota did a really good job there. The tech overall is a pretty strong point of this car, and overall, like, it just doesn't do anything bad. I think that's the thing. It's like, that's what Toyota's going for. They're not trying to blow you away. It's just a car that does a lot of things pretty well, and therefore people are going to buy that. For me personally, I think one of my biggest gripes is the fact that this price tag is a little high for the standard features you get. $33,000 is not that insignificant, and I would just really expect things like heated seats, heated steering wheel, and some other nice features like at least rear parking sensors. And I think that Toyota does a really good job giving you those standard ones like adaptive cruise control, which is a huge lifesaver, honestly. But it kind of falls short in some other areas. I feel like overall, this is a good car to get if you really want the practicality of a RAV4, and also want something off-roady, right? On the other hand, if you're not looking to flex your car's off-roading capabilities, I wouldn't recommend getting this, because there's no reason to get this trim over the XLE Premium, which comes with a lot more cool features like the pano sunroof. However, I will say that I do love the orange and black theme going on here, and these seats are really cool. I mean, this is so cool. I'm really into it. So if you really just like the looks and the rugged looks, honestly, go for this car, right? It's going to have the reliability of a RAV4, but also still have some off-roading capabilities, which is kind of a neat thing. Better than a Jeep Wrangler, right? So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk through today, guys. Leave me a comment. Let me know how you like this car, what your opinions are on the RAV4, or if there are other compact SUVs that you think are way better or anything like that. But otherwise, I will talk to you guys in the next video. You can like and subscribe down here, and check out my other videos up here. Thanks a bunch, guys.